Okay, so I thought about starting a new series or a new playlist, which will just talk about games for LAN play. It's something that really gets me going. I love LAN parties, especially in especially now in this time of lockdown and this whole coronavirus. It seems like it's the perfect way to keep in touch with friends. And I've always thought about gaming. Like one thing I love about it, it doesn't matter where you are, where your friends, where your family are in the world. You know, you meet people, they move away, they move to different towns, different cities, or even different countries. It allows a way, especially now in this online world, to get together and catch up. And whether it's just with one person, is it with four people, is it with 12 or even more? Like for me, quite often actually the gaming is secondary, but being able to have regular contact with some friends who've moved away is more important. So I've been running a regular Sunday night jam session and it's pretty regular. Sometimes we have less people on, sometimes we have more, and we've tried quite a few different games now. And there's certainly some games which work better due to their setup, due to the gameplay itself, and due to some other things, such for example, whether multiple sessions of the game are needed, whether there's ability for drop-in play. So look, I've thought about this, and I thought I would come up with a list of how I can rank games and see how they line up in this series of LAN gaming. Since this is the first of the series, I thought I'd talk about my criteria. If you'd like to skip ahead to the first game that we'll be looking at, which is Counter-Strike, please skip to this time here. If not, I'll show you the little chart that I've made up to score and rank games. Alright, so here's a chart that I've made up, and we're going to be looking at three main topics. The setup, how easy is it to set up? Gameplay, how easy is it to start enjoying the game? And extras. Really what I'm looking for here is, after you've finished your LAN party, is there more of the game you can enjoy? So in total, 30 points is up for grabs, and later on as I start looking at more and more games, we'll rank games according to this. So for the setup, all of these criteria here, I'm just gonna assign it basically 2 points if yes, they fit the criteria, 1 point if they kinda do, and 0 points if they don't. So if the game is free, I'll give it 2 points. If it's cheap, 1 point. If the size of the game, because downloading can take quite a long time, and quite often at LAN parties, things need to be installed and downloaded, which can take a couple hours, and your gaming session could only be 3 hours. So if the size is small, it gets 2 points, and small I think is 1 gig or less. If it's bigger, then just 1 point, and if it's enormous, then 0 points. For specs, can any laptop run it? They get 2 points for that. 1 point if you need a modern laptop, but say something that doesn't have a dedicated graphics card, and 0 if you need a gaming laptop. For the installation, 2 points if it's basically just say something on Steam, you hit install, makes it super easy. 1 point if you need to install this, you need to install Game Ranger, you need to install that, and 0 points if you need to do a lot of configuration just to get the game running. Because I do intend to look at maybe old DOS games or games which just haven't been up to date. For this LAN WAN section, basically I'm just putting in here some games it's very easy, you can just host a game, join. Other games you have to write this command, you have to put in that command. So 1 point if it requires extra step just to join multiplayer games, and 0 points if it's just completely arcane and you have to fiddle with routers, you have to port forward. And finally for the setup, how many people can you play with it? So max players, any game that's more than 10, which basically means, you know, people can drop in and drop out usually. 2 points for that. Games which say 4 to 10, 1 point, and less than 4 is 0 points. Now, not to say if any game fails on some of these criteria. I mean, there's heaps of great games which are single player. But is it a good game for a LAN situation? And I think the combination of these aspects will help us rank games and see which ones are worth your time when you want to organize LAN parties. Right, moving on, let's look at the gameplay section. What I've found is quite often you'll be playing with people who have different skill levels. Some may be really good at first-person shooters, some may be really good at RTS. Also, now that online LANs, as to say it, are becoming more popular, sometimes you have people coming in at different points of the night. or daytime. And also, I have noticed that games which can be essentially completed in some way in a single session tend to be fared a little bit better as well. So here's the criteria. A lot of great games, one of the key aspects, are they easy to learn or do you need extra tutorials? So 2 points if it's easy to learn and basically start playing. Sort of mentioned this before in the setup phase, but can people drop in and drop out of the game? Or is it something that you hit start and basically the amount of players that you have is locked in there? I'll give it 2 points as well if you can have a round per se in less than an hour. That means you can have multiple rounds of the same game. Tends to be a little bit better as well. Can it be also finished in a single session of gaming, or do you need consecutive nights? So 2 points if it's a single session, 1 point if you need multiple nights. Which sort of ties into the next thing is if you do say you need different or multiple nights of playing the same game, can you play it with different people? Now this might apply more to say like RPGs, and say you have 6 people playing an RPG together. What happens if say next week one of those people don't show up and then the following week they show up again? Can you really realistically continue your session and everyone be at the same level? Again, not saying that it's not a bad game if it doesn't fit any of these criteria, but these aspects as a whole I've noticed through my LAN sessions or online gaming sessions make a better or suitable game to play online. And thirdly, let's look at some extra things. How much fun can you have with the game after you have had the LAN session, go learn a few things and come back and play it again? So 2 points of it for the content of it still being patched and modded, 1 point of it's kind of each. 2 points if there's a depth to the game. Is there good games like Dota where you can learn more about the different heroes, the itemization? Or 1 point, is it just purely technical? Is it purely just muscle memory with mouse movement that you have to learn? Does it still have an active community and player base? So 2 points, yes, or 1 point to say there's online matchmaking, but it's really slow, takes a long time. And finally 2 points if it has a single player campaign that you can enjoy, or 1 point maybe if it just has AI bots that you can play against, sort of like a skirmish setting. So to tally up for the setup, there's a maximum of 12 points. For the gameplay section, 10 points, and for extra, 8 points. And again, there will be many games which may just falter in a single category. Doesn't mean the game's bad at all, but just by looking at the overall rank as we look at more and more games, if you have a session upcoming, what I want to look at is which games are you most likely to have a good time. In some games, maybe the setup is terrible, but the gameplay and extras are really, really good. So as long as everybody has it installed to start off with, then it'll be great. Or maybe some other games, okay, maybe the gameplay isn't so grand, but the setup is so easy and you can jump in and everybody can just bring laptops, and people have got different kinds of PCs. Some are extravagant with exciting LEDs, others is just an old laptop which was pulled out of the garage from 10 years ago. Okay, so let's discuss Counter-Strike, and I will give out the total straight out the bat. It came out to be 25.5. Which is actually really, really high. Alright, so a quick overview of Counter-Strike Global Offensive, also known as CSGO. Multiplayer first-person shooter developed by Valve and is the 4th game in the Counter-Strike series released back in 2012. You choose to play as either the terrorists or the counter-terrorists. The two teams are pit against each other, tasked with eliminating each other while either completing a series of objectives such as defusing bombs or rescuing hostages. There are now 9 different game modes in the game with different characteristics specific to that mode. The game allows matchmaking support, custom maps, and other sort of mods. A Battle Royale game mode, also known as Danger Zone, was introduced in 2018. CSGO has been praised for its gameplay and faithfulness to its predecessors. It still has an active competitive scene with millions of players per month and tournaments sponsored by Valve themselves. At the end of 2018, it was transitioned to a free-to-play model. In short, I feel like CSGO, in a lot of ways, needs no introduction because it is so popular, but sometimes in LAN or online sessions it can be overlooked because it is that mainstream. So let's look at the setup. In total, out of 12 points, It scores a 9.5. That's pretty good. So 2 points because the game is free, completely free to play. Size wise, I gave it a 1 because it is on the bigger side, but not completely too big as long as you got fiber. So on the store page it says it's only 15 gigabytes. Probably means that's how much it needs to download, but when it goes to actually unpack it, it's 21.8 gigs instead. For the hardware specs, I gave it a 1. You don't need to have a flash gaming laptop or PC, but a modern PC would be beneficial for this game. To install it, I gave it a 2. It's relatively easy. You just need a Steam account, which most people have. For the WAN section, I gave it a 1.5, depending which mode you play. If you play online matchmaking, it's really easy to get into games. If you play or want to use just local groups or a private modes, it's a little bit more setup involved, involving needing to use play with bots feature and then adding in some commands to get rid of the bots. And for anyone interested, I'll put down the codes which I use in the description in this video. Finally, for the setup for max players, while competitive is a 5-on-5 match, for private matches you can have as many as you like, really. You can play solo, you can play with just 2 or 3 people, still have a lot of fun. You can have 10, you can have more. So all in all, the setup of the game is pretty smooth, pretty good. Okay, for the gameplay, Counter-Strike, let's go. Oh my gosh, it came out 10 out of 10. For LAN games, the gameplay is just precisely where you want it to be. It's easy to learn, hard to master. It doesn't really matter if people have really played first-person shooters before or have very little experience, because all you need to do is move the mouse, click WASD to move your cursor around. It is beneficial, of course, to have a little bit of aim, but anybody can really get started and jump in and start playing Counter-Strike. For private lobbies, people can just drop in, drop out. Doesn't matter if they show up at any time of the night. The time required is probably less than half an hour if you're playing a standard up to 15 match, which is great. It means you can have multiple matches per session. You can play the game on a single night and feel like the game is completed, and also play it with different players if you play the game progressively from week to week. Now, the gameplay may not fit everybody's cup of tea, but in terms of a LAN party situation, it fits all the criteria and is easy to get up and going and start shooting each other. And last of all, for extras to the game, can you still keep enjoying Counter-Strike after you've played it from your LAN session? And yeah, quite easily. So for this section, I gave it a 6 out of 8. For the content, the game is still being actively patched, and there's a lot of mods that go with the game. One that I really like is the co-op missions. I like co-op missions more than, say, PvP. That's my personal preference. And there's plenty of maps, and high quality maps, which have been made for this game. The depth, so now this is really just my personal opinion. The depth of the game, sure, there's some strategies you can learn in terms of learning the maps. However, I find it's much more of just a technical game, more about just being able to flick your wrist right and doing some drag shots and trick shots, or twitch shots I should say rather. It's more on just the technical rather than decision making strategic. But that's just my opinion. The player base is still very active, completely active. You can easily find a match online. Single player, it is more just about AI bot matches. There isn't any, say, fully fleshed out campaign as such for this game. But I suppose with first-person shooters, any first-person shooter, if you played one of them, you can play another one, and third and a fourth. So personal experience, we've been playing Counter-Strike over near on the 4 or 5 weeks now, and consistently it's been a great game to keep playing and trying. And there've certainly been many times where we've gone away, played other games, but we always find ourselves coming back time and time again to play Counter-Strike again. There are times where I have felt a bit worn down by it, and I need some other games to play instead. And then after that sort of little break of it, it's definitely a game you can keep coming back to, play more of. Fantastic for any LAN party situation. Thanks for watching. Appreciate any comments or any opinions you might have of the way that I'll be ranking these games, and we'll look forward to see how all of this progresses. See you soon.